I have a free online community. It's called the Marketing Clarity Community. And it's where, it's free, and it's where I put tips, guides, strategies, how-tos, webinars, everything related to digital marketing. So if you're a solopreneur, small business marketer, and you need help with your digital marketing or business growth, I would love to have you join us there in the Marketing Clarity group. Now today I am talking with one of the fine members of that community, Jerrell Trulove of Trulove Studios. We're going to be talking about branded photos, how they differ from headshots, and why you need to hire an actual professional photographer for your business. If you like this video, you know what to do. The whole like, comment, sub thing, I'd really appreciate it. Jerrell Trulove, welcome to the Clarity Spotlight video. I just saw you, didn't I? A couple weeks ago?
Yeah, you just saw me for our branding session.
I did.
Here in Austin. Had a good time. So yeah, pleasure to be here, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I saw you behind the camera. That's what I.
Yes.
And I just want to start with a kind of a funny story. You know, we initially met, and I know you. I don't know. I wouldn't expect you to remember this. Years ago. I mean, It might even be 3 years ago that we met at like a networking pre-COVID.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we chatted a little bit. But I got to tell you, I absolutely loved your vibe. I just thought you were like so sharp, so on top of it. I looked at your work and I loved what you did. And you know, I just wasn't ready then to work with you. And then I came ringing, hitting you up this year, 3 years later, and you're probably like, who in the hell is this guy? But I so vividly remembered you. So for everyone out there who doesn't know you, didn't get the benefit of meeting you at a networking event 3 years ago, who are you? What do you do?
Yes. So I just so you know, I do remember meeting you at the event, and then we actually met and had coffee maybe a week or two later. I think that was that late 2019,
Yeah.
I think, or mid 2019. So it was years and years ago. But yes, I do remember you, and just was so excited when I got your email about your branding session. But yes, for those that don't know me, my name is Jerrell Trulove, and I am a wedding and event photographer here in Austin, Texas. I'm running Trulove Studios. I've been a photographer for a little over 11 years now. So, man, time flies. And so, yeah, we specialize in weddings and events, but also we do portraits. And in addition to that, we do branding sessions as well. So if you go to our website, trulovestudios.com, you'll see a mix of all those things.
Yeah, and that's what we connected on because I wanted to get some branded photos. And we're going to delve into in this video what exactly that is, right? And why it's valuable for solopreneurs, small business marketers to have this, or at least bookmark your website, save your email for 3 years from now. No, people, if you're watching this, don't wait 3 years like I did. I regret I didn't pull the trigger sooner. So let me ask you this. I suspect that when it comes to your brand photo sessions, you work with a lot of solopreneurs, small business owners who are also small business marketers. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
What's something that you like? Maybe it's an objection or a question, or like, what do they wrestle with as it relates to branded photos and hiring you?
Yeah, so that's a great question. The main thing I think that people, it gives some hesitation is, do I really need this? Or even a small thing that's related to that is, well, I just need a few good photos. I hear that a lot as well, right?
Sure.
So it's like they don't want, they know they need something, but maybe they don't want to commit to a full session. And so in their mind, they're thinking, yeah, I just need a quick photo that I can put somewhere. It doesn't have to be a whole thing.
Do you think that's
Yeah.
always related specifically to the cost or like the time? Like, oh, I don't want to give an hour or even 30 minutes. I would imagine it's always just, oh, it costs this much for this. It should
Yeah.
cost less to get less. Is that usually where like their head is at?
Yeah, I think there's so many factors. I do think it is a little bit of that. It's like, well, I always use this example, right? If you go to, think about the first time you went to a five-star restaurant or just a really good restaurant. You paid the most you've ever paid for that steak or that lobster, but the portion was like
Yeah.
this much. And you're like, well, if I'm paying this much, why am I not getting more? Well, you have to understand that when you come into the realm of professional photography, yes, you're going to pay more. And maybe you feel like, well, if I'm paying this much money, I better get all this. But if I don't want to, then can I just,
Yeah.
get what I'm used to, if that makes sense?
No, I think it
Um,
does. And it's common in the creative field. But I would imagine as a photographer, you mentioned how you do weddings, you do portraits. I would imagine this
yeah.
is something you deal with across the board, no matter what service it is.
You're absolutely correct. Usually, when I'm working with people, it's usually their very first time working with a professional. And so you never know what their assumptions could be, their perceptions could be, but usually it's going to be more than they thought it would be, right? And so I think maybe they're questioning, well, should it really be this high? Or what we hate to hear is, well, I know a guy that can do it for, you
Oh,
know,
the I know
50,
a guy.
70.
We
I
all
know
love
a
the I
guy,
know a guy.
right? We don't, that's what they could have in the back of
I
their
have a
mind is the,
I have a cousin, second nephew who's home for the summer
yeah,
from college, and he has a
yeah,
camera, so he can
yeah.
do this, right?
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
that being the case, I, I don't need to pay, 1,000, 2,000, 500, whatever it is. I just need a few good photos. So it's almost like they're trying to finesse their way into some professional photos. But there's just so much more that goes into the process. But it's not something you can ever really know in advance. It's just something that you have to trust is going to work out in your favor. But, most professional photographers, our clients, once they go through the process, they love the final result. And they always wish it's something that they would have done sooner. So,
Can I say this too about really good photographers like you? I'm putting you in that category.
thank you.
And I would say this actually about really good people in any creative field, but I think particularly photography, is it seems effortless to the point where people maybe even wonder, like, whoa, I mean, he did that in only 30 minutes and it only took this long and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm paying this much. And I had a colleague of mine who used to, he was in, he's a trade. He was a tradesman. And he taught, when that came up, he would talk to me like he'd show up to someone's house and he'd fix their ceiling fan and it'd take him like 10 minutes. And they'd be like,
Yes.
it costs this much. You know, it took you 10 minutes. And it's like, yeah, you're
Yeah.
paying because it only took me 10 minutes.
Exactly.
If you'd like for me to spend 3.5 days to fix your ceiling fan, I'll gladly do that. But
Yeah.
I think that's very allegorical to what you do in that when we did our branding session together, I mean, it was effortless, right? We had some prep beforehand, but you
Yes.
showed
Yeah.
up, you were ready, you already had some ideas in mind, you had stuff ready to go. And I even remember during our shoot, like, because we did a couple outfit changes. I wasn't
Yes.
I wasn't in cool costume, but outfit changes. And I remember the first one, I was like, yeah, we're probably like 30 minutes in. You're like, no, it's been like 15 minutes.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's something that people need to understand in the differentiation between working with a professional.
Yes, the working with a professional is not just taking photos or cooking a meal or fixing a ceiling fan, right? It can literally be decades of taking photos. And so obviously when you get good at something, the amount of time it takes you to get the world-class result, it's going to diminish, right, as you become more efficient and more proficient. And I will tell you, as a beginner or an amateur, yes, it takes a long time, but and I'll not to get too much into the weeds, but also once you become a professional, you know your equipment like the back of your hand. It's all, I mean, just think of like driving, right? When you drive somewhere, it's effortless to you now. You don't
Mm-hmm.
even have to think about it. But when you were learning, you were a little nervous, and maybe you ran
10
into
and
some things,
2.
right? 10 and 2. You're thinking of 100 different things, but when you know what you're doing, you could be listening to music, taking a phone call, eating,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. All of the
You
above.
know
Yeah.
And so the experience with a professional, it does feel effortless. But you know what? I think that's actually a plus. What you don't want is to hire an amateur and it doesn't feel effortless,
Oh.
because you can feel the difference. You can feel the person that's unsure of what to do next, or is having some hesitation, or or they're just not confident in what they're doing. You can feel that. And if you're a client, that's the last thing you want, is someone who's like, yeah, I don't know what to do, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's not a
So
good situation. And I got to imagine, you know, brand photo shoots, I would imagine for you are I think, pretty, I'd say, turnkey, easy. Doesn't mean, and we're going to look at some of the work here in a second, but I would imagine that projection and knowledge, the projection of confidence and knowledge of equipment and how to deal with that is even more valuable for when you do weddings, which is like a pressure cooker day for a
yeah,
lot of people, right?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I look at a wedding as basically an all day branding or portrait session.
Uh,
Honestly, that's really what
that's
it
cool.
is.
Yeah.
Because people, let's say you want to do a portrait session indoors in the studio, or a branding session outdoors, or at high noon, or at 8 p.m., right? That's all a wedding is. It's just you're going to be in a room while they're getting ready. You're going to be outside while they're, having the ceremony. Then you're going to be inside for the reception. And so looking at it that way, I'm not gonna lie, my confidence level is through the roof. But any professional will tell you that once you've done it long enough and you get in the motions, it becomes a breeze, and it seems easy. Now I hate telling people that things are easy, but it's just not difficult, if that makes sense.
Sure, sure,
Does that make
absolutely. It does. It makes
It,
all the sense in the
yeah, it's
world.
not easy, but it's not difficult, and it's not impossible, and it's not something that I can't completely master and continue to do it, again and again.
I would imagine probably another thing that maybe you hear, or a misconception, is about this idea of like, they have a LinkedIn headshot. What do they
Yeah.
need a branded photo shoot for? Do you hear that a lot?
I I do hear that sometimes, but for those that may feel that way, there's a big difference between a headshot and a brand session, right? And a headshot is just a professional photo of you. That's all it is. So yes, you'll have, if you're a woman, you have just a nice blouse, hair done, and you're just there, right? Same thing with a guy, tie, shirt, blazer, and you're just here. And that's all. It gives no context to who you are, your personality, what you do, where you do it, your personal style, even though you're wearing your own clothes, it still doesn't really allow the person looking at the photo to really tap into who you are. And that is the difference. And I would say, go to your favorite, if your favorite author has a website, if your favorite public figure, if your favorite brand expert or marketer, SEO specialist, right, or even your favorite photographer, if you go to their website, you're not going to see one of these shots, right? They're going to be right. They're going to be smiling. They're going to have their own personal swag about them. They could be, sitting in their office, right? They could be with their family, with their dog, with their favorite laptop. And so that it really allows you to go into that person's world and learn more about who they are. And that's why, brand sessions are so important. And I feel like brand sessions are actually starting to become more popular, especially since COVID, especially since so many people are, I would say, taking a dive into the entrepreneurial world and kind of finding their own path. Branded sessions are needed now more than ever.
And I would also say that the big difference, and we're going to take a look here in one sec on some of the brand photos, but it's about intention. Like a headshot has and purpose. A headshot has a very specific purpose, right? It's
Yes.
usually there's usually a reason why before headshot it's right before it's a professional headshot, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I
Yes.
want to present myself professionally, right? Whereas a
Mhm.
branded photo shoot can still accomplish presenting you professionally, but I think just like you said, it's with your own, it injects some of your personality in there. It injects some of
Yeah.
who you are, and injects a lot more of who you are. And it's very different. And I think if we take a look here, people will see a huge difference looking at these photos. And these are some of your photos. I didn't pick some random
Yes.
guy's photos off the internet. No, these are a handful of clients that Jerrell has done their brand photo shoot for. And you just see how incredibly different these are. And I feel like a branded photo shoot, you could use those photos conceivably as a headshot, but you could not do
Also,
the reverse, right?
yeah, very true. Very
Yeah.
true.
So these
Very,
are one, two, three, four right here up on screen.
yeah.
Do you have any kind of like interesting stories, or even talk a little bit about any one of these or multiple, like what they were going for, what they do, just taking us a little bit inside the process?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll use two of these as an example. So one of my favorite clients, Julia, on the top left photo, the one with the laptop, the coffee mug. Yeah, so she has a company. I believe she's actually sold the company since then, but it was called Express Riders, and her company has just a ton of writers on staff, and you can come in and they'll do your SEO, your ad copy for you. And her personal brand was all about having this kind of entrepreneurial, work from home, remote, like nomad lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why, as you see with her wardrobe choice, it's more casual.
Yeah.
She actually said, like, this is my favorite jean jacket I've had for like 15 years. And this
Love
is
it.
my favorite t-shirt that I wear at home while I'm working, right? And you see her laptop, it's not like super polished and pristine. It has her personal stickers. Like, this is the laptop that she will use when she goes home to work tonight. And then her coffee mug, that's her favorite coffee mug that she takes everywhere. And, she wanted to show images that showed her working, but also images that showed her winning new business, or hiring a new writer, or helping a client improve their business based off of the writing that she provides for them. So this was actually our first session together. We've actually done about 4 brand sessions for her,
Wow.
and she actually hired me for like book release photo shoots, when she started other businesses and things like that. So love working with her. And then I'd say on the right, Miss Shinna, she is a real estate professional. And so, as you can see, she's dressed a little more
Mm-hmm.
professionally, because this is how she would dress if she was to go to an open house or a showing. But she wanted to show herself in front of some real estate. And fun fact for this session, this is actually in front of her own home. Now you wouldn't
That's
know
awesome.
that, but yeah, she's like, hey, I just want something in front of my home. And this was just a very quick session, but she loved the results. And you're right. If you wanted to crop in that piece of her, that could also be a headshot. And so,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
she used this for marketing materials for her website. If I imagine she could use this for a speaking engagement if it ever happened. And so, again, the brand shoot, it does allow you to transcend. I guess it kind of transcends the typical headshot and allows you to be more versatile.
I love the leading lines on that one too. Like the
Yeah.
railings, right? Like they
Yes.
all they pull your eyes in towards her,
Yeah.
and
I agree. I
I
agree.
that's a little professional. You're looking at that photo, you may not even recognize that that's intentional, but
Yeah.
it's these types
Yes.
of subtle but very thoughtful. And this is
Yeah.
part of our session. We you came in, we had some conversation before we did a 1 hour shoot, and we had some conversation before. I was like, yeah, I'm kind of thinking this. Here's what I want to use it for. Did like a kind of a mood board thing. Oh, here's some photos, just give you some ideas. But when we got together, we also just naturally collaborated with each other, right? To be
Yeah.
like, hey, what do you? Because you say to me, I'd like to think I'm pretty easy to work with too. You're like, hey, what if we did this? What if we did this? What if we did this? I want to try this. I want to try this. And I love that,
Yeah.
And I think for people out there who have never done this before, um, it was so easy. It never felt stiff. And I think getting that type of direction, again, based on the years and years that you've been doing this, hey, we want to project this message, this image, this
Yeah.
brand in a certain way. And so, on that note, these are beautiful people. But
Yeah.
you don't always work with beautiful people. Sometimes you have to work with uggos like me. And this was one which you may say, well, this is a silly photo, Ross. What is this? But here's the thing, Jerrell, we talked about this. I said, what I very specifically want are some
Yeah.
photos that I can utilize on my site as like big splash images, right? That can
Yes.
take up a whole space, that I can put some stuff on top of it, and they can be
Hmm.
incorporated into my site. And you were very thoughtful about that throughout that process. We did a bunch where pointing, this kind of thing, and they're now peppered throughout my site, and I will continue to pepper in more, right? But
Yes.
this
Yeah.
was very helpful, having a conversation with you about what do I want to use these for. And I would imagine that's something you would talk with everyone that signs up for this, have that conversation with them, right?
Yes, absolutely. The first question is, where will these images live? How will they be used? And the typical answer is my website, right? Everyone typically with the business is going to have that website, and that's going to be kind of their home, where where they live online. And so, yes, they usually want some banner images, right? They want an image that has some negative space, or just an image with a clean background, so they can just like have a cutout of themselves
Mm-hmm.
and maybe be able to put that on some other graphics. And also, they will mix in some headshots. They'll say, hey, I also just want some typical, straightforward headshots, photos of them walking, talking, laughing, just whatever. But at the end of the day, the goal is, I want to show people who I am and what I do. And then that's when it's like, okay, well, what do you do? Oh, I help people overcome this hurdle or this obstacle. Or, in this image, hey, I want an image that shows clients that I understand their frustrations, and I know what it's like to have that Facebook ad fall flat, right? And I've been that person myself. So I can
We all
relate,
have. Thanks for nothing, Facebook. Just kidding.
all that money.
but
So,
but
yes.
that was an
So,
exact conversation we had for this photo, where I was like, okay, what
yes.
I'm thinking is like I want one where I'm like covering my eyes or I'm frustrated. And
Yeah.
I had some in mind, but then, as any good, talented creative will do, you took my idea and concept and made it better, right? Like we did a
Yes.
bunch of variations on this particular photo, different poses, different moves, and that's super helpful because now I have
Yeah.
a real kind of diversity, if you will, of moods, emotions, poses, and so I can utilize these in a ton of different ways. And that brings me kind of to like this third and last photo I wanted to share. This was
Yes.
getting these I was pretty fun.
Fun.
Fun. It was fun.
Interesting.
It was. And Trike's right back here. He's
Yeah.
he's right here. So he made an appearance and I brought that with me and this was absolutely 100% your idea where you were like, hey, what if we
Yes.
did something with like you throwing it up? And I gotta tell you, man,
It's that.
I'm sure you have
Yeah.
so many great outtake photos from this.
Yes. A few.
Weird faces. Because trike is hard to kind of toss up. We did a bunch of tosses. And then we did some where you had the idea, like I got down on like, so I wasn't even in the picture. And we tried
Yes.
some of those and tossed them up. That was dangerous. I almost hit myself in the head a bunch. But I just wanted to praise and showcase here the creativity that you bring to the table, because I think people out there may be watching this and they may be thinking about this and they may be saying, I don't know. I don't know what I would do. I'm not creative. And
Yeah.
you can bring in what you want to do and you can help take it from there.
Yes, absolutely. The main thing is that, and this goes back to a few good photos, right? When you're working with a professional, it may take a few iterations, it may take a few tries, right? It's going to take us some trial and error, walking here, looking at that. So, like, this is not something you can get in 5 minutes, right?
No.
Matter of fact, this was something that would happen more towards the end of the session. And I think I just, had the random idea, hey, what if, I don't even know where that came from. But, when you're working with creatives, now we are professionals, but we're creatives first, or creatives at heart. A lot of creatives, they thrive off of inspiration and in the moment thinking. And so you're thinking, well, I'm not creative. Well, that's why you're paying the money. That's why you're working with someone that's been doing this for 10 years.
Yeah.
And that's why you're trusting that what you want, it's not something that you can make for yourself. And it's not something that, a guy, he can't do it for you either, right? You need to find a professional. And you come with the ingredients, and then I make the cake with you, though, not separate and apart. We make it together, and it becomes something that's new and fresh and fun, and something that, maybe it's not exactly what you thought it would be, but as long as you're open and on board with the process, it's going to turn out great.
Yeah, I will say this too. If you're out there watching this and you are one of those people who tells yourself, oh, I'm not a creative, then you need to appreciate and understand the value of creatives. Because I think that's something that I hammer on a lot, where it's always kind of like a race to the bottom when it comes to
Yeah.
creative work. You know, social social media poster, content creator, marketer, just do it all at once. And it's a photographer, videographer, and it's just like any other craft. You mentioned earlier, like going to a fancy restaurant, you pay a premium because
Yeah.
not only just for the quality, but I would kind of argue in a large part for the creativity. I've been to some amazing restaurants, and not only are
Yeah.
they high quality, but it's just like the creativity that went into the meals are what differentiates it. a lot of times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not always, but a lot of time. And so I think if you're out there making that investment and understanding the value of creativity is something that's really important, particularly when it comes to photography and the things that you're going to use to market yourself.
One final thought, in keeping in line with the restaurant analogy, right? You pay that, $150 for that whatever. And when it comes out that first time, you're like, man, this is it. But every time when you eat that food and you enjoy that experience, you walk away satisfied and you walk away thinking, man, I can't wait to come back.
Yes.
Right? So, right. So there may be that like, ooh, wait a minute, this isn't what I was expecting. But when it's all said and done, you always appreciate it, right? The taste is better, the service is better, the atmosphere is better.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, man, when for that special occasion, we're gonna go back here, right? And so kind of tying that in with photography, if you just want a quick Instagram photo, yeah, you can just do that with your phone, or have your friend snap a picture.
Sure.
But for that website,
Yeah.
right, for those pictures that can help win you business,
Yeah.
that is when you have to go hire that professional. That's when you need to spend that extra money.
So let's talk about that. Someone's watched this, they want to learn more, they want to work with you. Jerrell, where can they go to learn more about you, to connect with you, to contact you? Fire away, my friend.
Absolutely. So if you are interested in branding session, portraits, or even weddings or events, just go to www.trulovestudios.com. That's TRULOVE studios.com, and /branding specifically if you're interested in that. Our prices aren't on the website, but if you're interested in a 30-minute session, that's just going to come in at $300. Not too much. It's actually very modest for a
Yeah,
branding session.
I think, listen, I deal with people in all different creative fields, photography especially, but I would say 300 for 30 minutes is incredibly affordable. And I know if you're out there like, oh, we've already talked about like, you also give a lot from that 30-minute and you get a lot.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
even if you're like thinking about it, reach out, contact your, and mention that you heard about him, watched this video, or heard about him from Tricycle Creative or from me, Ross, whatever. And I know you've been super generous enough to extend a $100 off a 60 or 90-minute branded photo session, right?
Yes, absolutely. So the 30-minute is 300. The 60-minute or the hour session is 550, and then the 90-minute session is 800.
Cool.
And so yes, if you mention Ross or Tricycle, you get $100 off the 60 or 90-minute sessions. And the only difference between those sessions, the main difference, is just the time. Now, obviously it's the time, but what does time represent? It means that we don't have to rush through the session. It means that we can walk and explore and have that freedom to know, hey, we can really flesh out these ideas. We can do multiple outfits changes as well. And so that's what time represents. But if you're just really wanting like, hey, I got one outfit in mind, one location in mind, 30 minutes should suffice. But if you're wanting, 2 or 3 outfit changes, if you want to go to this park and then drive 10 minutes away to that, downtown building, then definitely bare minimum go with this 60-minute session. And
yeah, we did a 60, and I'm really happy we did. I think it was listen, I would have, so when I sign up again, we may do a 90, but I think it was like a perfect, and I know it's the middle ground, but it's like, it was great because I feel like 30 for me and for what I needed. Because I have very specific, like what I needed and what I wanted. And I had, I think 2, maybe 3 kind of like outfit changes, and we stayed in one location, and an hour worked out really well because it's like we knew kind of immediately with each outfit, if you will, like, okay, we know kind of like, let's get this one, let's get this one, let's get this one. But then we had that flex time to, like, just like you mentioned, explore, test out some things, try out some things. Oh, what if you try this? What if we sat over here? What if we looked at this light? We also had the situation where, you know, the hour was useful because of the sun position too. Like having that extra time, we had kind of a different lighting scenario at the end than we did at the beginning, which was really helpful, I think, for many of our shots, particularly one of the ones we did where there's a lot of silhouettes going on. Very helpful with like the sunset going on at that time. So yeah, again, it is, give the website again, Jerrell. Fire it off.
Yes, www.trulovestudios.com/branding.
Guys, check it out. Contact him. Now, let me just say this though before we jump off here. You're in Austin. I would just, you're just
correct.
doing these in the greater Austin area. Is that important, like, to specify? I know my network is people all over the country. So is that?
Yes. So we primarily serve Austin, Houston, and Dallas.
Great.
And so if you're in either, or in also San Antonio, Corpus Christi, if there's anybody down there. So yes, if you're in any of those markets, we'll definitely make the drive. Now, if it's within an hour drive of Austin, there won't be any travel charge. But if you're in, Houston, Dallas, there will be a charge for that. But that's something we can talk about. But yeah, we basically serve the major markets here in Texas.
Cool. I thought that's important to specify that you're not going to cover airfare to Alaska for a branding session. I mean,
I'll go though. I will go.
Alaska's lovely. I think it would be a lovely place to do a branding photo session. So,
agreed.
All right, Jerrell,
Agreed.
I just want to say thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for the amazing branding photos. And if you're out there watching this, like I said, go to his website, talk to him, contact him. And I hope you don't drag your feet for 3 years like I did.
Please
Because
don't.
Jerrell's awesome.
Please don't. Thanks, Ross. Appreciate it.